Hello everyone, welcome to Blue Dragon Universe, and this is the Blue Dragon Actual YouTube channel. So I hope you are having a good time. I planned for this video last week, but because we already were closer to the 1,000 subscriber, and I thought that Blue Dragon Vision would be the better video for that week. And thanks for sort of showing love and support to that video. Now this video, which was planned for the previous week, now we are going to kind of go through that. And also tomorrow is a big day in India, especially if you believe in religion. Personally, I don't believe in any religion, but tomorrow is the day where Ram temple and all of those things are coming up in Ayodhya. So if you are a believer in religion, if you are kind of impacted by this, congratulations to you, because I believe that there it has been taken some time to create such things. Although personally, I don't. I would have been more happy if number of colleges, schools, and hospitals were built. But all things have their places, and this would also help a certain section of people, and this would also help to unite, maybe a certain religion of people. So, congratulations to those. And yeah, I hope you are enjoying the leave, because in my state, Haryana, they have declared a public holiday. So I'm very happy about that, right? So talking about God and religion, something which is going to be very close to the God would be AI, and that is not a joke. Maybe in next 50, 60 years, when probably I would not be there to see that, but maybe people who are younger than me, they would probably see that happening. So that is something is what we going to discuss today, or go through the introduction of that, because it's a very vast topic, and I am thinking of creating a separate YouTube channel for that at later part of this year. But not right now, because I don't think the Indian audience are that mature enough to go through the mathematical rigor that is required for AI, deep learning, or all those disciplines. Because usually the channels that we see these days in YouTube, especially, are the user of AI. Like someone is typing something and a video is created. Someone is something typing something and a picture is created. So that's what we have seen, or Chat GPT or Google's Gemini. But these are just the surface. These are just like the basic things that AI is producing. AI is just at a, I can say, kindergarten stage, and AI is going to grow a lot more and do much more difficult thing than this, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead. Now this is the thumbnail that you have seen probably for today, right? Thumbnail for the video that you are seeing right now. And this image is generated by AI. I have not created this image. I have just typed Actuary and AI handshaking. So just the example that I was giving before, this image was created by AI. And as I mentioned, this is the very basic of what AI can do. Is just the starting phase, and there are multiple things that you can do. Now suppose you have to kind of draw this sort of image. Like if I have to draw this sort of image, first of all, I am not a good drawer, so I can't do this, right? I have to hire an artist who can do that, and I have to give specific instructions. Even then it might not be feasible. Now that artist might also look for inspiration, maybe look into some animations that is present in the Google or something like that, and then that artist can draw this, probably, because drawing something like this is not easy. But AI was able to generate this in just flat of maybe 30 seconds, right? So that's how powerful AI is. Even at this kindergarten stage, you can imagine why I was comparing this to God at later level, because God is someone who is perfect, who does not make errors, and who does not get tired. Now this is a very important quality, because we humans do not have that quality. We get tired, right? No matter how intelligent we are, we get tired. And not it's not something that is a bad thing. We need rest. That's why we evolve. That's the time when we take rest, our everything kind of get uh, rejuvenated, and we then evolve. But AI can evolve even without taking rest, and that's what makes it somewhat closer to the god than we are, right? So that's the power of AI. Now moving on, AI and Actuary. So obviously, AI is the new buzzword. I think from the advent of Chat GPT in last 2022, December 2022, AI has become the buzzword. Everybody is talking about AI. There's so many courses right? Every panwala and jardawala is now selling AI courses. So that's why I was telling that there are so many YouTube channels which are showing the uses of AI. They are not showing how to create those models, how those, maybe the Netflix movie recommendation system, that's an AI, or the YouTube video recommendation system, that's an AI. But how that models are built, what is the mathematics or what is the algorithm behind it, that nobody's talking about, because they themselves don't understand. Once again, the concept of paper actually applies here as well, right, in different context, but that's how it is, right? But AI is the new buzzword, right? And actually is all the older data scientists, this is something that has been told when AI first made its appearance, and we were kind of, given a consolation prize saying that, yeah, actuaries are the oldest data scientists, so actuaries are closer to AI some in some way, right? And the question is whether AI is really big or just a flash in the pan. It will, kind of fizzle out once this craze go out. So whether that is the case or AI is really big, right? Now, to understand that, we have to understand three things, or three, kind of structures, which is very confused. And there is also reason for this three structures to get confused, but I mean, there is something that we need to understand, to clarify, to understand whether as an actually we are closer to, or we are, we can learn AI easily, right? So that is something that we need to understand. So these three structures, or these three points that I am talking about, is first is data engineers, data analyst, and data scientist. Like actuaries are called the oldest data scientists. So what is the difference between all these three, right? How is data engineers different from data analyst, and how is data analyst different from data scientist? Now if you see this, data analyst and data scientist are marked in kind of same color. That is the reason for that, right? There is a reason for that, and we'll see that. Moving on, who are data engineers? So data engineers arranges the data in structured manner, and then they are mainly responsible for how data can be accessed and integrated. Also, they require this knowledge: data warehousing, where the data will be stored, what server the data will be stored, right? And usually they use SQL to store the data in a particular format. The data need to have maybe a primary key so that you can identify the data, how you can, kind of combine or join multiple data. So if you have done SQL, or if you have done coding in SQL, you understand what is join, what is merge, right? So all this knowledge is required by, a data engineer, and they give you access to those data. Sometimes you might only manipulate the data, but you cannot create thing, you cannot drop a column from a table that is present in the data. So that is kind of given by data engineers. So they, in simple terms, are what we call IT people, right? So in IT people or database management team, so they manages the data, they get the data in a particular format, which is the raw data. Like for an insurance company, when you fill the proposal form, the proposal form goes through a data entry process, because you are filling it through pencil and pen, right? These days there are also ways you can do it through a, maybe in computer, or through online, or maybe through a tablet. But usually the process is through paper and pen, or pencil and pen, right? And you sometime, maybe the salesperson or the sales agent, the insurance agent is filling that application on your behalf, you're just signing at different places, right? So then a person has to enter that data into the system of the insurer. So that data entry is done by data entry operators, right? There might be some severe errors in the data. Like I remember, when I was in SBI Live, there was a person who was a data entry operator, and every time for age he was putting 21, right? And age was a very kind of important number, right? Because the life insurance premium changes depending on the age, and that person was fired later on. And I also remember, I was sitting once, my HOD told me to take an interview with him, and I accompanied him. So I was very young at that stage, and I was sitting in an interview of a data entry operator, and they were just given some basic English questions to see that if they understand English. And I told him to spell this sentence called, massacre, and that person replied, "Oh, massacre." So that's my, so they are not very educated, so they are, that's how they make those mistakes, right? And a data engineer is responsible for taking the data, arranging in a particular structure so that a data has a primary key. Some missing data might be there, so you have to kind of arrange the data in a particular manner so that other can use the data, right? Usually the IT head or someone who is kind of looking after the data, that person would be a data engineer, right? So this is the person who is arranging the data so that someone else can analyze the data. Now talking about analysis, who can analyze the data? That is the data analyst. They are the first user of data, and they do sanctity checks like outliers. Like I mentioned, there might be a age which is written as 121, right? 121 cannot be the age, or maybe 141. Straight away you understand this is wrong entry. No one can be alive for 114 for 41 years, and if that person is alive, he would not be given an insurance policy, right? Because his mortality risk would be so high. So outliers would be there, missing values would be there. They might need to create some visualization, something like box plot or histogram or something like that, to see if the data is looking good. Like and real example of this in Actuary is analysis of surplus. If you have done analysis of surplus, then there are several status in which a data or a policy can be, it can be, the policy can be expired, like it has matured. The policy can be a death policy, it can be a lapse policy, it can be paid up. There are so many things, right? It can be a new business as well. So depending on that, you have to analyze the data, and you have to see whether the data is kind of correct or not, whether it is making sense. You have to compare this with the previous year data. So sometime you see that last year there was surrender, there are around maybe 1,000 surrenders, and this time there is 20,000 surrenders. Something has to be wrong there, right? Or there should be some justification why there is 20,000 surrenders. So data analyst is someone who looks after this thing, do the basic sanctity checks, and they mainly work on descriptive statistics. That is mainly look for the skewness of the data, mean, median, mode, right? What we have studied in CT3 or whatever that is called CM1, right? So basic descriptive statistics, right? So that is something that data analyst look after. They would also require knowledge of SQL. Excel is very very important for them, because you are doing those analysis in Excel. These days R is also used to do such analysis, but I have not seen much use of R, like much industrial use of R, because R is a limited software as compared to Python, because Python gives you more, more skill, right, as compared to R. And then they also need some statistics because they are working on descriptive statistics, right? They can also develop some dashboard, right? And Power BI, Tableau, these are like upcoming things. And if you are working in that field, data analyst field, you are probably also aware of this. Like, then there are Power BI developers or Tableau developers who create such tables and something like that, right? So this is where data analyst work. Sometimes, I've seen, sadly, actuaries are also given roles which are actually not actual roles but data analyst roles, and they learn nothing in the process. I've spoken at length about this, and that's unfortunate. Like, there are multiple companies who do that. They give you data analyst role and they call that actual analyst. That is not actual analyst role, that is actually data analyst role. You are not using any actual judgment or actual software. So in that case, you are actually playing with your career, right? That is some experience that you are gaining, but that is not the actual experience that you are gaining. So you would be having difficulty in switching your career or switching to a different company or understanding actual concepts. So you have to be very careful about that. But this is what the data analysts do. And then come the data scientist, who uses the clean data provided by the data analyst. So they should not be bothered about the sanctity of the data. They should understand, yeah, the data is correct. Whatever data is given to us, my assumption is the data is correct, unless something is outrightly wrong, right? But my assumption would be the data is correct. And they mainly work on mathematical or machine learning models. Now, the reason I'm calling it machine learning, there is a reason, because I'm not calling it statistical models, or not like I'm calling it mathematical models. So there is a reason for calling it machine learning models. We have a present, kind of slide on machine learning. So there we'll understand why I'm calling it machine learning models. The knowledge required is obviously whatever data analysts do. They also need to know that SQL, Excel, statistics. Now here they need to also know machine learning. Machine learning, there are so many sort of machine learning techniques or algorithm, reinforcement learning. Then these days there are several other disciplines that are coming up: deep learning, generative AI. And you have already seen the use of generative AI in the previous slide where I show you that picture. So you also understand that, right? So all of these things are kind of present. You also need to understand linear algebra, because most of the calculations or structures, or many libraries in Python uses matrix, right? And you need to understand linear algebra to kind of work through those, right? An example of such library is TensorFlow. If you have worked on TensorFlow, you already know that it is using linear algebra, matrix, etc. In fact, pandas, numpy, all of those can create matrices. So you have to kind of know that. And obviously Python is used a lot. That's why Python is very super important for you to know in the coming days, because because Python is so scalable. You can create applications like web pages, mobile applications, anything and everything for which there is a library in Python, right? I was recently I was understanding something related to stock market trading, and I saw there is a library called backtesting where you can backtest several things in stock market. So I am not clear on that. I mean, I have to yet to gain expertise on that. It's something that I'll do over the period of time in this year, right? So everything is present in Python. Whatever you want to do, you can do it, right? A dose of reality. Usually, this data analyst and data scientist role are supposed to be kind of separate. Like data analyst would be the first person to work on that, and data scientist would be the second person. But usually that is not the case. Usually a person has to fulfill both this kind of ability. Like a person, data scientist need to have the skill set of a data analyst, so that they themselves will clarify the data and understand the data, and check the sanctity of the data, and then use it for further analysis or mathematical models. So this is what I have seen, especially in core companies, right? When like I was working in Canada HSBC at a point of time, and they have very limited resources. So you used to get rubbish data, right? And then multiple times, for example, I was part of that analysis of surplus thing, and then I have to check the data, visit the IT team, and the IT persons are very rigid. They would never accept their mistake, and then you have to tell them, "Yeah, this is a mistake. You have to kind of rectify that." Spend 20 minutes with them to make them understand their mistake, and then they would understand their mistake, and then they would rectify. They would give run the whole data or whole sequence again. Then after one day you will get the data, and then again your manager will ask you, where is the analysis of surplus going? And you say, yeah, I have not started it yet, right? So this is where data analyst and data scientist work get mixed up. That's why actual students are given data analyst job, hidden as an actual analyst job. But this job or this profiles has to be separate. But there is a clear distinction between data engineer, because data engineer has to be an engineer. That's why the engineer term is there. But data analyst and data scientist need not be an engineer, because you're playing with the data, right? And anyone with some coding knowledge can play with the data. But someone which only server knowledge or warehousing knowledge can become a data engineer, right? So data engineer is a separate profile that that cannot be confused. But the data analyst and data scientist, this can be confused, and often because of lack of resource, lack of money, often a data scientist and data analyst are doing the same job, right? Now the question still remain, why actuaries are called the oldest data scientists. Will come to that, right? Now machine learning, right? Now here machine learning is something which I have seen. Like there are many kind of algorithm like random forest, SVM, like I mentioned, the reinforcement learning, right? There are so many algorithm that is present, right? But eventually these are statistics, mathematics, linear algebra, right, and coding. So these four things you is combined to create something called machine learning. So if you understand maybe calculus, right, then that is part of mathematics. Then you apply those calculus somewhere in a matrix, that is linear algebra, and using that you are making some inference, you are making some hypothesis, and you are checking whether type 1 error is lower than this or type 2 error is lower than this. And that is your, you are creating some input. Based on that input you are getting some output, then you are matching it with the real output, right? And all of these are kind of coded, right, to see that whether the output that you are kind of creating is matching with the actual output. And when you do not have the actual output, like these are done on past data, and when you come to the present data, whether that that output is working, right? So this is how, like I have already gone through this, right? And the output is matched with reality, something that we also do in Actuary, right? We'll come to that. So machine learning examples is linear regression. You have studied this. Logistic regression, right? You have studied this. Probably we have studied this, like I have studied this in CT3, CM1, right? CT6 also, I think CT6 is now called CS2. So you have studied that there as well. There is a something called generalist linear model, right? So that is also a kind of this thing, right? There are several inputs, and depending on those input you are getting a or put time series model, an example of machine learning. So there are so many things. So a variable when it is time dependent, there are so many such models like ARIMA models, right? So many models like that. So probably you are remembering those if you have gone through those subject, right? Another example of machine learning is reserving. That is why actuaries are called oldest data scientists, is because we reserve is always on expected numbers. Like you make some assumptions about mortality, labs, whatever, right? Expenses, interest, and depending on that, you are creating a reserve, right? But your actual payment can be different from what you are reserving, and that's why there is always a comparison between actual and expected. That is what analysis of surplus is doing, right? So that is where I mentioned that if you are working on analysis of surplus, you have probably done the role of data analyst, and then you have created some reserve or checked checked whether the actual and expected are matching. That and something might not be explained, that is what we call unexplained. So that thing is what is an example of machine learning. So that is the reason that actuaries are called old age data scientists, because we already have some model, we already have some assumption. Based on those assumptions, we are creating some numbers, and then we are matching those numbers to see whether what we have reserved is actually sufficient or not, right? So that is a big example. Another example is stock market strategies. If you have traded in the stock market, every strategy of stock market is based on analyzing patterns. What has happened in the past? If there is a gap up, what will happen? If there is a gap down, what will happen? If the market opens at the same level, what will happen? And how can you determine what will happen? Depending on what the market has done in the past, right? Under similar situation, what the market has done in the past would would be likely to happen, right? But it's not true. Sometimes it may happen like that, sometimes it may not happen like that, right? So these three are very primary example of machine learning, where you can apply several techniques, mathematical models that is available in machine learning. You can even create your own model, right? Even you can create your own model, and if you have the background, if you have strong statistical knowledge, mathematical knowledge, right? Then you can create that, and then that is your own algorithm that you are creating, right? So this is, I hope that you understand why actuaries are called old age data scientists, and how data scientist is related to machine learning, because data scientist uses these models to draw inference, right? So that's the work of data scientists. That is not the work of data analyst, or that is not the work of data engineers. Data scientists draw inference and see how accurate those inference is by comparing with the actual result, right? So that is where we as actuary come into picture, and that is why we are called oldest data scientists, because we have been doing that since age on. And also another example is uh, credit risk models, right? So credit risk models are also, these are mostly used by banks, credit card companies. So these are used to see how likely you are to make a default on a loan, or maybe on your credit card. And these are also example of machine learning examples, right? So what is an AI? So AI is something that uses patterns, like the stock market example I given you. Now they uses pattern from past data to predict future. For this we use machine learning models. So model means there should be some equation, like some input, and depending on that it will produce some output, right? So that is a model, and it will use the past data to predict future. But past is not always a good indication of future, so need to analyze the error, right? And that is what AI is doing. So AI is the superset of everything, right? AI is the superset of everything, and that includes actuary. So it's whenever we are calling ourselves, actuary, that means in some way we are also practicing some sort of AI, right? Because we are already doing that actual versus expected, kind of analysis. So is AI really that big? That is the main question. Yes, because patterns are everywhere, right? A big example is stock market. That you can understand that usually, even in from insurance, from premiums. So which type of people are paying higher premiums? Which type of people are paying lower premiums? Who are lapsing their premiums? So patterns are everywhere, right? To policy servicing, a person paying maybe 1 lakh premium every month. What type of policy servicing he or she is doing, right? Once again, a separate pattern. How likely they are to claim? A person may be paying 10 lakh per annum, would be less likely to claim, because as compared to a person who is paying maybe 10,000 rupees per annum, because that person who is paying 10 lakh rupees per annum is able to do so because he or she can afford that. And if he or she can afford that, then probably he or she has better lifestyle, right? And maybe much healthier lifestyle. Or that person might have, because of maybe big money, that person might be spoiled and that person have a bad lifestyle, right? Or that person might be living a very stressed lifestyle, so that person might be more likely to claim. So patterns are everywhere, right? So that's why AI is really big, because it is basically analysis of pattern using statistical mathematical model, and you are using a code to kind of analyze that pattern. So because of that, right, patterns are everywhere. So AI is big. The more time passes, the more data would be generated on its own. The more data that will be there, the more significant AI will become, right? So AI is real. Now with the advent of open source softwares, like open source softwares are like even yesterday someone we have a WhatsApp group, you can join that, the link is in the description. By the way, you can also please like our LinkedIn page, in the Blue Dragon Universe LinkedIn page. Instead of messaging me anything, message to that page and you can get your response, right? And any and every way to connect with us would be present in that LinkedIn page. So you have to go to LinkedIn and search Blue Dragon Universe, right? And remember, it's blue without the E. That E is extra, so BLU Dragon, and you can get it easily, right? So with the advent of open source softwares, now everyone can code. It's free for everyone, right? The example that I was trying to give was someone in our WhatsApp group a few days back mentioned that Excel is an open source software. Excel is not an open source software. You have to purchase Excel, and you might have a pirated version. That's a separate case. Sometime if the the laws of land are that strong, then you might be put behind bars, right? So this PPT that you are seeing, this is in Microsoft PPT. I have paid for this, right? I am not using a pirated version. So better that you use a paid version, because people have taken efforts to create this, right? And it should be kind of acknowledging that. So with the advent of open source software, so you don't have to pay, like Python, you don't have to pay anything, right? The libraries are free. You can those libraries which are paid, like there are very few users, and those are probably very you know uh, what can I say, hi-fi library right? So usually most of the things are free. That's why there are many developers, because there are many developers, there are many brains that are seeing something, and that's why there are many ideas, and that's why this is going big. Earlier, on this was only done by SAS, right? SAS was a coding software. It still is. I have cleared a couple of certification or done some certification in SAS, so I know that. But now SAS is not that important, because with Python you can do the same thing. It's free. Earlier there was a restriction, but now it is free, right? So with the advent of open source software, now anyone can learn, and this will cause further development in AI, and it will do the work that we are doing today manually. An example is, because I watch a lot of Japanese animation, in Japanese animation, because the language is in Japanese, so we need subtitle. Now AI has recently replaced those people who used to create subtitles. Like they had to see each and every kind of uh, scene, and they have to write those, right? It was a very manual task, right? But with the advent of AI, they are kind of automatically they're listening to the Japanese audio and they're creating the subtitle in English, right? So their job is gone. AI has taken their job, right? Because that's an easy thing to do. That's a manual. Although it's a manual thing for humans, it will take a lot of time, but AI can automatically create those, and that is the first, maybe a real big impact of AI in Japan, right? So you can understand how how AI works and how big AI is, right? And this is a real thing. You can Google it and you will find that AI has taken the job of subtitle creators in Japan animation industry. Moving on. So will actuaries lose their job, like those subtitle creators have lost their jobs? Yes, but there is time for that. First of all, actual judgment and everything is not that kind of easy. After even after so many qualified actuaries, there are so many paper actuaries, they don't understand actuary even now. So how do you believe that AI, which is in such a nation stage or kindergarten stage, can understand actuary? They will take time for that, right? And also because insurance people are very rigid, and probably you have already seen that they still post an advertisement saying that passing in CT5 or passing in or requirement profit experience is required. They are not ready to train you, so they have such rigid mindset. How can you believe that they will accept AI so easily, right? So because of that, there will still some time, because there will be some resistance. People who are at senior level, they don't know understand AI, they don't understand coding, so they would not let AI come in so easily, right? So there is time for that also. Like I mentioned, actual judgments are really tough. And if you right now, someone few days back was messaging me, and he or she was asking about SA2, how to prepare for SA2. And I mean, that person has a plan that he'll use Actuary.ai or something like that, right? And I advised that person against that, because actual things are very difficult. And something like Chat GPT, Gemini, they are usually giving wrong answers. As for example, if you yourself know what is time value of option and guarantees, right, you can kind of write what do you mean by time value of option and guarantees. If you know, if you don't know, then that will be the right answer for you, right? But if you yourself know, you can check, and it is usually giving the wrong answer. Especially, for example, derivatives in stock market, I trade in derivatives, so there are so many intricacies of derivative. If you ask something to something like Chat GPT, then it will probably give you a wrong answer. Forget about everything. Even if you write some basic visual basic code, or these days I'm learning Pine script, so Pine script code, AI or ChatGPT are giving wrong answer mostly. 90% of the answer would be wrong. So I would not advise you to kind of use AI to learn stuff and believe that that is the right thing, because they're probably AI is not that advanced right now, and probably it will take some time. That's why I mentioned in some time. Maybe this is what I believe. Maybe in 2 years time AI will grow to that level, so that it will start giving you right answers about actually, and it will start impacting the actual jobs, right? But not before that. So you still have time. So if you are seeing this video right now, you still have time. If you can manage, well, I would personally say that what I am doing is I'm building my skill on AI, right? I know something of AI, but I'm not an expert on that. So in 2 years' time, I have to become an expert on that, right? So if I can't do that, then I know that my job will be in danger. I already have a timeline in place, right? And then after you learned a bit of, like, if you know 80% of something, remaining you can learn, like in Actuary as well, right? If you are an experienced person, you know that the initial learning curve was bit steeper. Then when you are kind of at certain level, then you can learn every other thing very very quickly, right? Same goes for AI as well. And like I mentioned, most people in AI who are claiming to have knowledge about AI just are pure users of AI, right? They do not understand the mathematical model. They are what I call paper AI once again, right? So they don't understand actual AI. Actual AI means you have to understand the mathematics behind it. If you can't understand that, then you cannot create your own AI. Then you will always be users of AI. Then you will be limited by AI. And because AI works on patterns, they will always analyze your pattern, and they will always create something which is based on your pattern. So that will kill any creativity, because you will not learn something which is new. You will only learn something which is done in the past. So if you start using AI, there is a risk that you will be kind of bounded by what you already know. You cannot learn new things, because that's how AI is built. It works on the past. It cannot create something new, right? And that's the problem, right? Anyways, moving on. So how to deal with AI? The simple answer is, the only way to deal with AI, the only way is to learn and create your own AI, right? For that, you have to know the mathematical model behind it, right? Other than that, you cannot create your own AI. So most of the courses that you see in the market, those would be something like there would be already a developed ready-made algorithm, and you will be told to use or given use cases for those algorithm, but they will not teach you what is the mathematics behind it. And that's where we will be different, right? But that also depends on you. If your mindset is to be a user of AI, you'll always stay a user of AI. But if your mindset is to be a creator of AI, once again, only 1% people will fall in that range, and you can be a creator of AI. Then in 2 years you'll be very very happy. Otherwise, in 2 years you will grow more and more tensed, and one day you will be replaced by AI. You'll be asked to leave because you are no longer required. And that is a truth. Most of the senior leaders will first first be replaceable. Then the people who know slightly more, maybe some bit of coding or something, they would also be replaced. If you do not know AI, so this is the time to prepare for it. Right now the level of AI is not that big, so you might think, yeah, what a computer can do, why I am already far more intelligent, I am the person who have created this computer. Like, as a human being, you have created the computer, but don't worry, in some time you are up for a surprise. right? So that's it. If you have any question, answer, any comment, please write that in the comment section. I hope you like this video. And yeah, I mean, probably at some regular intervals I'll create more videos on AI, seeing the response on this video maybe. And as I mentioned, maybe in the later part of this year I'll have a separate YouTube channel for AI and mathematical models which are not done by others, right? That's like our YouTube channel where we discuss concepts which are not done by anyone else, because they anyone else can't do this. Same goes for AI. So we'll do that, right? And we'll also have our own course and everything. My, as I mentioned, if you have seen the Blue Dragon vision, my goal is to create a proprietary course where all of this techniques should be combined: statistics, mathematics, AI coding, to understand stock market patterns and take decision based on that patterns, right? So let's see if I can be reach that level. So with that, I close this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please share this channel with your actual friends so that they can also benefit by this channel. And if you are new to this channel, consider subscribing. See you in future videos.